It's all alive again at the National Stadium. Speeds. Was he held? Yes! Penalty! So often in the past, Wales have suffered because of penalties in vital matches.
Gordon's there. Field, surely a handball. Penalty kick. It's a penalty kick for Scotland.
Paul Bowden to take it. Oh, and he's hit the crossbar.
Sensational from Hal Robson-Kanu. Bill! Gareth Bale, NBE.
These home forwards are in fighting trim. John Charles again, passing to Tapscott. He shoots and it's in. Wales have opened the scoring.
Great John Free rush! Yes! 1-0!
And Wales have finished with a bit of a swagger.
Crucial welcome, episode 199. If episodes were caps, Sophie Ingle would be catching up with us. That's amazing, 150 caps this weekend. My name is Russell, and his name's Leon. How are you, sir?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, some brilliant achievement from Sophie Ingle, and we got got the win in Albania we needed. I didn't see the game, but seems like we were hanging on a little bit and a bit lucky, but.
I only saw the second half, and I think, to be fair, under the cosh a little bit. Broke effectively, and could have maybe carved out a couple more chances to probably seal the victory. But sometimes you've just got to grind a victory out, haven't you, and win ugly. So and also I suppose for some of the younger players that Rhian Wilkinson is blooding, for them to be able to do it, I think is. It's good to see as well. So, incredible achievement by Sophie Ingle, and still looking absolute class as well. And I feel obliged to say a former Dinas Powys player as well. We're going to be looking at the Bosnia game, finally getting around to it. I should say it's the Sunday, so Sunday 19th of April. Hence we're talking about the women's Albania games in relatively sort of present current terms. There's been action at all age grades as well. Some of the results are a little bit gruesome. In the 17s, Crikey Moses will touch on that. But we've also, maybe let's start with that. I'm sure we will do a bigger retrospective and deeper dive into his career. But one of our bona fide, gold-plated, all-time greats, Aaron Ramsey, finally called it a day. And if we're honest, it's not a surprise. And it's a shame that this is how it is kind of announced and this is how it happens, and there wasn't an opportunity to sort of pay tribute on the pitch. I'm sure the FAW will come up with something or other where he kind of walks out in a nice sort of smart suit at half-time or before a game at some point in the autumn, or maybe the end of season friendlies. But you don't, as they say, always choose your moments. Sometimes they choose you, and his time's come to an end.
Yeah, I mean, God, it's such a shame. I mean, the way it sort of ended, really, considering everything. And I mean, it just looked at one point like he'd got fit and was in the team out in Mexico at Pumas, and scored that goal after coming on the sub, and it looked like, oh, is he going to be back with us for the end of this campaign and take part in the playoffs? And then it just all kind of went wrong and got a bit messy out there. And once he came home from Mexico, it was like, well, just couldn't really see him ever playing again, really. So it was sort of inevitable. I don't know if we had qualified for this World Cup, what he might have done to possibly get himself fit, like offer to pay to play for Newport County or something. I don't know, but what options there might have been. But I mean, respect for him for trying to get to another tournament. He obviously felt like he had unfinished business because he didn't really perform at that last World Cup. Very few Welsh players did, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, I love the guy. Probably my favourite all-time Wales player, actually. Like, maybe even for me, slightly above Bale. I don't know. I'm just sort of perhaps drawn to that kind of it's hard to say, but like, that kind of sort of number 10 type player, sort of deep midfield playmaker who scores and assists and can kind of drift into space. And I love Glenn Hoddle as a kid. I've talked about that before, and he's the sort of closest thing to Glenn Hoddle that Wales has ever produced, I would say. Just lovely footballer, but a bit more bite than Hoddle, really. Who famously didn't trap back much, but yeah, I mean, I think reading some of the tributes, there's some really good ones. Ellis James wrote a great one for the Guardian, but it was a sort of reminder to me to don't look at the comments section, because people outside of Wales particularly just don't really get him. It seems still don't understand what a good player he was. I mean, it's just a bit odd, really. It's stuff like on the BBC piece, which I think Daffer Pritchard wrote. It's a good piece, but is sort of asked the question: is he Wales' greatest ever midfielder? And there's all sorts of people underneath going saying stuff like, "Well, Giggs played in midfield, so no," and Gary Speed was a midfielder, so no. And it's like, well, just look at their Wales records. Giggs scored 11 or 12 goals for Wales. Ramsey got 21 goals, played in 3 tournaments. Speed didn't play in any tournaments. I love Gary Speed. We all love Gary Speed, but Ramsey was twice as good a player as Gary Speed. He won. Speed won 1 league title. Ramsey won a league title in Italy. Won 3 FA Cups. He is clearly the greatest midfielder that Wales has ever produced, and there's no sort of argument about it. But there's this weird kind of, I don't know, this weird sort of Arsenal thing as well of, some of their fans saying, well, he was a good player, but, he wasn't great and he should have achieved more. And it's just like, well, I don't understand why they would accept, every Arsenal fan would accept Liam Brady was a great player who scored less goals, played less times, won less trophies than Ramsey in the same sort of position before going to Juventus himself. It just doesn't really make that much sense unless you kind of factor in the fact that Arsenal fans are a bit spoiled. And I don't know, I saw something on the BBC website the other day. It's this UFC fighter talking about how he doesn't like Arsenal fans and they're all moaners, and like it's a bit naff, this whole kind of thing. But I mean, I could sort of take his point that they are a bit fucking annoying. Like, I mean, they're just like, I think what it is that they had this incredible team in the first 10 years of Wenger or so, first 7-8 years of Wenger, and they won the league without losing a game, and they had Patrick Vieira, who's their greatest ever midfielder. And then it's just like after that, they just wouldn't accept that anyone was sort of up to standard for them. And I just think, oh God, when someone tells me they're an Arsenal fan these days, my heart sinks, because I just think, fuck off. You're just so annoying.
I think he is quite, well, not more than quite. He is almost indelibly linked with Wenger, isn't he? But the latter end of Wenger's reign. So, like I said, not that bit you've just referred to, which I think kind of provides a little bit of a sort of like a shield to any kind of criticism. It kind of like galvanizes a player and it insulates them from any kind of criticism. Whereas when he then went on that run for a few years, we're not really winning many trophies, well, not winning any maybe trophies, and maybe trading a little bit on former glories, he's kind of indelibly linked with that reign. But I also think he's just one of those players where a lot of fans have just made their mind up, and he's not the first and he won't be the last. And it didn't matter what he did. That nothing was going to change that, even if it's scoring goals to win, the few trophies that they did towards the end of that reign. And I think as well, I suppose he's one of those players that doesn't. He wouldn't dominate a game in the way that, well, for argument's sake, a Bale would, with that kind of like explosive kind of like a very muscular way, with like a huge personality as well. He was much more different, and we've covered this any number of times over the years, particularly as a captain. And I think that almost kind of counts against him as well.
Yeah,
I think people wanted him to be a bit more of a shouter, a bit more, but physically he wasn't that sort of specimen either.
No.
I mean, he did struggle with
wasn't.
his injuries, and I think that is another thing that perhaps undermines him a little bit, sort of reputation-wise, with some fans. But I think Wales, we did see the best of him on occasions, particularly 2016. Obviously, he made that tournament team of the tournament. You don't fluke that. You earn that, and there were some good midfielders in that tournament that year. So I just think, one of our all-time greats, and I would agree with you. And anyone who thinks Giggs is a better midfielder for Wales is just, should stop sniffing the glue.
That's absurd. Completely insane.
It's mad. I can kind of see the speed thing. I can see it, because Speed, similar kind of character actually, quiet, wanted to kind of lead through influence and just play, not a shouter or a baller. Everybody kind of looks up to him, but they were different players as well.
Yeah, I mean, like in terms of,
they would make good foils for each other. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see Speed in the sort of Ledley or the Joe Allen role alongside a Ramsey of that kind of 2016 era. Don't get me wrong, but different players.
Oh, completely. I mean, but like, I just think, I think back to Gary Speed as a player for Wales, and there were like 5 or 6 memorable moments, things I think of, like good goals he scored, and like really telling contributions, like great cross for Nathan Blake's header against Norway, for instance. But like with Ramsey, it's again and again and again and again. I can think of off the top of my head 20 odd moments where he like made a difference in a big game, goals, assists, passes, key passes. That tackle against Turkey in Euro 2020. Yeah. Just endless moments. But yeah, I think like for amongst Arsenal fans, his crime was that he wasn't Patrick Vieira, and there's nothing he can really do about that.
No.
But for Wales, we appreciate him because we never had a player like him before in our time watching Wales. In terms of talent, Jason Kumas, but in terms of turning up and consistently producing in big games, Kumas couldn't ever do that, and Ramsey did it time and time again.
No. And did it with the sort of the weight of expectation, because by the time he got into the full team, we'd seen what he'd done for the 21s. He'd already broken into the Cardiff scene. People were raving about him. So he also had that. And to have dealt with that, I think, as well, is testament to his character, and that way of just sort of making or letting football sort of do the talking. Yeah, no, really, really great player. And it's a shame, as I said, that we couldn't sort of maybe have given him a send off at the World Cup, or he had a send off on the pitch. That it was just a little sort of press release and some social media stuff. But as I said, that's the cliche, isn't it? You don't always choose the moments. The game will choose them for you sometimes. And that's a shame. But I'm sure there'll be some sort of send off for him when we next get a chance.
Where is the Ghana friendly being played, actually?
That's a very good question. I mean, the Romania one is away.
Yeah, because if it's at Cardiff, then that would be the try and get a few more on the gate to sort of pay tribute to him, sort of thing. Maybe that would be the opportunity, I guess.
A few stats. Here's an interesting one. I was mentioning it to you before we started. Him and Joe Allen, in terms of between their first and final caps, almost identical to the day length of international careers. 15 years, 9 months, 25 days for Joe, 21 days for Rambo. And again, I suppose in terms of indelible connections, I mean, yes, for Arsenal, Ramsey and Wenger are one, but obviously him, Allen and Bale are also indelibly linked in terms of the sort of like the parallel careers that they had, and the high moments and the great moments and the tournaments, etc. But of course, Allen was still playing until 2025. Ramsey's final cap is 9th of September 2024. So even if he'd have carried on till this month, say even just have stepped out for 2 minutes in one of these caps, one of these games in one of these windows, you're talking about another year on top of that, or year and more. Only Billy Meredith would have had a longer international career in the history of Welsh international football, which is stunning, isn't it?
And Neville Southall even.
Neville's actually cut away down. Neville's 15 years More caps in that time, but 15 years. Yeah. So in terms of Billy Meredith, who incidentally, it's the 19th of April, he died on this day in 1958. So speaking of Billy Meredith, but Moses Russell, 16 years, 8 months. Like I said, if Rambo had played I think pretty much in any of the games in the last couple of months, he'd have had the second longest career. Moses Russell, 16 years, 8 months. Bale is 16 years, 6 months. Hennessy, I suppose, is another name to add to that little sort of list of players with these parallel careers. 16 years, 4 months. Gren Morris, Joe Allen, Aaron Ramsey. Yeah, 86 caps, 25 as captain, 21 goals. He's 6th in both the caps and the goals list as well. So even if he'd have managed another couple more caps in that period under Bellamy, there's a good chance he'd have added maybe 1 or 2 goals to that as well. But 35 and it'd be interesting to see where he goes next, because obviously he had that little sniff at the Cardiff City job, didn't he, temporarily, in a caretaker capacity. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up next, really. So like I said, I think we'll probably do a bigger and deeper dive into that in due course. But just by way of news roundup, we touched on the women's games. They beat Albania home and away, looking nicely poised in their qualifying group. The under-17s, so this is what I'm talking about, gruesome results. They lost at home to San Marino, having drawn 0-0 with Andorra. Now, to not be able to score against Andorra and San Marino under-17s in 180 minutes of football is pretty shocking. So I'm not sure what was quite going on there, because I looked at the team sheets, and there were names that weren't, there was a degree of familiarity around some of them. So, shocking. And the 21s didn't do too badly at home, but again, some of the results in the Matty Jones not great. Up against in a tough group with Denmark and Belgium, admittedly, but I know they've always definitely. It's about using those levels as just a way of getting players into a system, into that kind of culture, and accelerating them. Those that can and deserve to be accelerated through the age grades into that first team, and that's just the almost like the sole metric. But as I was thinking, but we're also talking about Aaron Ramsey, and he was part of that era where actually we started to send them through and provide the senior team with some talent that was ready to play, and we were knocking on the door of tournaments and being, relatively speaking, more successful than we'd been previously. So they're not mutually exclusive, are they?
No, I don't. I've never bought this whole kind of, they're just there for, the teams are just there to provide players for the senior team, and that's always seemed like a bit of an excuse to me. And it's like, well, other teams, other smaller countries as well can kind of produce results at youth level, and as is entirely predictable. I'll go back to talking about Brian Flynn, but when he came in, he was like, well, we don't want our players to get used to losing. You can't beat a winning feeling. And he wanted the Welsh youngsters to pull on a Wales shirt and win games. That was a stated aim of his when he came into the job. And he did that. He created an under-21 team which only lost 3 competitive games in 3 years, and beat France, beat Italy, beat Romania away, beat Sweden away. So it's possible. It's not like we just have to accept that we're a small country, so all our best young players are going to be in the senior squad, so we can't get results. I don't buy that at all. And I think Matty Jones is under pressure now because it's been a really poor campaign from the under-21s, and the way that we fucked up that last campaign with the clerical error, which meant 3 of our best players couldn't play in that decisive game at the end, that put him under undue pressure, and results haven't been good enough. They just have not been good enough in this campaign, I don't think. And those under-17 results are really worrying. That just should not be happening, considering most of these lads are at academies in the kind of English system, which is generally considered one of, if not the best in the world. It's poor.
Yeah, and I mean, there is no shame in losing to Belgium and Denmark at the 21 level, but to do so by shipping 13 goals and 2-4 in the 2 games, it's the manner of the defeats. And then you think, okay, well, we're absolutely shipping goals left, right, and centre at 21s, and we can't score them against some of the smallest nations on the planet at the under-17 level. Yeah, it's a bit worrying. Under-19s girls, however, beat England away, which strikes me as an incredible result. So, the credit where it's due, but it's a little bit worrying. But I was impressed in the home game against Belarus at the 21s. I was impressed with Kai Andrews. Yeah. You can see where this link is going, can't you? He looked good. And it's probably the most I've seen of him. He came on against Canada, but it was, like 8 or 9 minutes or whatever. A cameo at the end of that game. Looks well built, mobile, comfortable on the ball. So there's a player I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more of. And of course, he's playing fairly regularly up in Scotland. I think he's at Hibs on loan. So some of us might be a bit sniffy about the standard of the Scottish Premier League, but playing week in, week out, rather than just kind of drifting between academies and reserve football and sitting on the bench and getting a couple of minutes here and there for Coventry's first team, there is a big difference there. And obviously be buoyed by Coventry getting promotion, which means that we've got at least 2 more Premier League players, because obviously Jay De Silva is going up as well. Coventry, which is a fantastic achievement. I know a Coventry fan, and most of the season it's just been like, this is just nobody was expecting this in the Coventry fan base. Even the most optimistic and one-eyed weren't expecting this. So credit where it's due, and to Frank Lampard as well. Not everybody's favourite cup of tea.
No, well, fair play, yeah, amazing, yeah. So they've done it with some style, a few games to spare as well, and like Jay De Silva, yeah, fair play to him. I mean, I don't know if because he was at Chelsea for quite a while, that maybe Lampard being there might help, because they might have known each other from before. Maybe that's what's helped him really pick up form. I mean, he's been their regular left back in a team that's absolutely crushed the Championship this season, and fair play to him. He'll be in the Premier League next season, and from the looks of his last few international games anyway, he looks like he's equipped to deal with it. Because I mean, I thought after the England game, I was like, oh Jesus, this guy is nowhere near good enough. But fair play to him. Ever since that window, he's really looked at the part, and I thought he was great against North Macedonia, and then I thought he was really good against Bosnia as well, and especially in the air for such a little guy to win so many headers. So I think I'd be interested to see how he goes next season in the Premier League, and what with Kai Andrews. I guess it'll probably be sent out for. He's only 19. He'll probably be sent out for another loan, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So maybe Championship level next season, something like that, and see how he goes. But yeah, it should be pointed out that we'll most likely be losing at least one player from the EPL in that Connor Roberts, who even though he hasn't played all season, is part of a Burnley team who are about to go down. Ben Davies is part of a Spurs team, or even though he hasn't.
I wondered if you. I was thinking, is he going to go there? Is he going to go there?
Well, I mean, this would be hilarious. Well, it'd be hilarious in a lot of ways. That but for Ben Davies, he's never played below Premier League level for a club team, because he got into the Swansea team when they were already in the EPL. So if his first second division game, Championship game, comes about as a Spurs player, that would be quite sort of ironic, wouldn't it? Really, considering the size of the club and everything. But I mean, he's out of contract anyway, so I don't know what's going to happen there. It would be crazy and absolutely brilliant to have Spurs playing Wrexham, Swansea, and here's a seamless link, Cardiff next season as well. So there you go.
Absolutely cooking on gas here. Yeah, well done to Cardiff. Yeah. It felt fairly sort of routine.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt that they were up quite a long time ago, actually. Little bit of a wobble, and Lincoln kind of sort of romped home, and there's a good story as well.
Oh yeah,
and provided they've been a club where a couple of players, including ours, have gone on loan and done well, and it's been a part. Time at Lincoln has been part of their career development. I think of Liam Cullen, I think obviously Brennan Johnson, a bit more high profile. So there's a great story there, but. Cardiff obviously has a clutch of players there. Dylan Lawler, I guess, is the pick for all the talk of Ruben Colwill. He's the one that's kind of really cemented his place in that Cardiff team. I do wonder whether he's now almost first choice for Wales. I think that's a big call, but I thought he had a good game against Bosnia. Yeah. Really comfortable on the ball. Love to see that. And you can see if he's able to establish himself at Championship level, there's going to be club sniffing January window for sure. Cardiff got a battle on their hands, and I think they knew that anyway. But I think even more so now. It could be if Cardiff didn't go up, then maybe he'd have been off in the summer anyway. But they'd maybe get another 6 months with him in the Championship, unless someone really offers some money that they can't afford to turn down. Good to see him back. And a few people were saying last season, maybe it'll do him good to go down, to come back, have a little bit of a reset, come back. It doesn't feel to me, and I would defer to people who watch Cardiff more week in, week out than I do, it doesn't feel like there's been much of a reset, because there wasn't that much movement in and out of the squad, really. It feels like mainly the same squad that took them down has got them back up with a couple of games to spare. Yeah, with little drama. So yeah, hopefully Tan can find a few pennies down the back of the settee, add a little bit of you're going to need a couple more players to compete at that Championship level. But yes, good season, because it's been, they were circling the drain a bit, weren't they, for about 2 or 3 years before that.
Yeah. I mean, I think from a Wales point of view, what's good is that, you say not too much movement in the squad in and out, but like those young Welsh players who, were previously on periphery or out on loan, who did well on loan. In the case of Isaac Davis, did great in Belgium. Joel Colwell had a couple of good loan spells, I think. Have then been sort of trusted in the first team and have performed, generally, it seems, over the course of a season. So and then, Dylan Lawler is someone who's been pushed up from youth level and sort of trusted by Barry Murphy, which is great. He has this history of working with young players, because that's his his main experience in coaching. So yeah, great. I think Dylan Lawler. I as much as the talk about going to Bayern Munich, for example, is exciting. I would like to see him play games consistently in the Championship for a season first, at least, before going off on this big move, which I'm sure he'll get if he keeps progressing the way he has, because he is class act. He looks like a sort of modern baller, as I believe the kids call it these days. No, class player. I'd be interested to see how Ruben Colwell goes in the Championship, because before he's been inconsistent in the Championship at that level and shown real moments of brilliance, but not put it all together. And I think he's vice captain, and you think Barry Murphy seems to have shown faith in him, and he's produced consistently when he's been fit this season. A good goal yesterday, the header, I think. And it feels like we've talked about him. Everyone's talked about him so much that it's just, what more can you say? It's just, you're just repeating the same stuff again with him. Talented player, needs to show it on a consistent basis. There you go. Just said it again.
Yeah, you can just I can just kind of edit it in from any previous episode, isn't it?
Exactly.
I suppose what's interesting from a Wales point of view is that we saw more of Joel Colwell in this last window than we did of Ruben. Albeit fairly low key friendly, that again nobody wanted to play him. But you say nobody. Well, when Joel gets told he's going to be playing, he's going to be starting, that game is one of his biggest games. It's his first full cap. So I buy the wider, broader narrative around, oh God, do we have to play this game and all the rest of it? But actually, for some of these players, it's their first full cap. It's it's a start. It's a game at home. It's at their home ground and some of that sort of stuff. So I agree up to a point, and significantly up to a point. But there was a little bit more, I think, potentially at stake there for one or two of those fringe players. But yes, we're skirting around it all, aren't we? Right. Let's not delay this any longer. So we're not going to the World Cup, although increasingly the stuff about the World Cup and its cost and immigration and all the rest of it, maybe it's one to maybe it's a bullet dodged.
I was really looking forward to paying $150 for a half an hour train ride myself.
Yeah,
for us.
Although you look at the cost of trains in the UK, and I'm not quite sure many British people, and certainly the British government, can be too critical, frankly. Yeah, no, absolutely, an absolute money grab. But us two and Hugh did the preview. We all agreed that it would be. We expected us to win. We didn't think it would be comfortable. We knew we'd been for a game. And the frustrating thing is we hit the woodwork twice. We it's a little bit stodgy in places, but then we got ahead with a bit of a wonder goal, and it was like we just need to see this game out. We were in control until we weren't. It was about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and as soon as that goal went in, at that point I thought, we've seen these games in these playoff kind of, both club and country, so many times. The momentum swings the other way, and you could see that they were then they were thrilled to take this into extra time, and then even after a while they were thinking, we'll back ourselves. We're just going to play for penalties, and we just lost shape. We lost momentum. I do wonder, did we lose belief? We just seemed to lose confidence, and that kind of energy just seemed to dissipate, and almost in sort of some sort of Newtonian physics sort of way, it seems to kind of like translate into the other team on the pitch. Thoroughly disappointing. What was your view?
Well, I mean, I would just pull you up on the idea that we lost control with 5 or 6 minutes to go. I thought we lost control with about 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, fair enough.
To be fair, and that goal was sort of coming, even though kind of on the breakaway we had chances to kind of maybe go and hit a second goal, but the Dan James one where there was a deflection which went onto the bar, 2-0 would have most likely killed it. But I after they equalised, I thought, that was coming so much. They'll go on. I fully expected them to win it in the sort of 8 minutes or so that would have been remaining, including injury time. I thought, wow, our heads are going to go down now. They're buoyed. They're going to win this now. That was my feeling. And then extra time sort of surprised me a bit because I thought we were the better team in extra time. They didn't really create anything, and they seemed to be very happy to play for penalties.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, oh, God, they're happy to play for penalties. They know their goalkeeper is an amazing penalty-saving record, and I think they kind of knew that. And they were really confident about if it went to a shootout. So I thought, well, we're kind of actually on top. We got a momentum back. We need to try and win this, but we didn't seem to have any sort of conviction in front of goal during that period, even though I thought we made most of the running and they were holding on. But yeah, thoroughly disappointing, like you say, to have lost it from a winning position. Yeah, 86 minutes on the clock. And it just felt sort of so unnecessary, really. It just felt unnecessary. Of course, when you concede a goal, there's this phrase amongst coaches in football, particularly those defence-minded, that, show me a goal and I'll show you a mistake. And yeah, just the manner of that, to concede a corner the way that we did with the aerial presence that they've got 4 minutes to go, it was just so demoralising. Yeah, I've just miserable, really. I was just miserable by the end of that. I don't know how you felt.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, complete agreement. I think you are right, probably, to call me up on when we sort of lost control of it. Darwood made that brilliant save, didn't he? A bit before the goal. I thought we'd kept Dzeko quiet, and I remember saying to Gaz on the night, thinking, we've kept Dzeko quiet, and I'm thinking, he's 40 now. How noisy was he going to be? And that class, just to be able to get his head and he just nicks it. And it was just really the manner of that goal, like you said, and conceding the corner the way we did, and Cullen. I don't want to dig players out, necessarily, but it just had a sense that a little bit of panic, a bit of not panic, but anxiety had crept into us. The way he tries to clear the first corner and he kind of shanks it into touch, and that for me was a bit of a worry that anxiety sort of crept in. And that we lost, or were continuing to lose then, some of the control that we'd had. And, I think you're right. Yeah, we probably did shade it in extra time, but I'm not sure I ever really saw us scoring. It was all a little bit, let's just, break and run at them, and without any real pattern to things as well.
No. And also, like, that we, our striker at that point was Mark Harris. And we were looking for a guy who scored one second division goal all season to put the ball in the net, and he just didn't look like scoring. I mean, look, I don't like digging out individual players. It's not a fun thing to do. But the criticism and the sort of analysis of that game, which I've read and heard, which I sort of agree most with, is Bosnia's substitutes made them better. Our substitutes made us worse. And I think it's hard to sort of disagree with that. If you go through it sort of one by one, Jordan James came off 56 minutes. That was a real shame shame. I mean, I don't know if you saw this in the stadium, but he was struggling with a foot issue and he had to come off. But I thought he had a really good 56 minutes. I thought he played really well alongside Ampadu there and sort of helped give us that control. And so, he had to come off. And I thought, okay, right, who's Bellamy going to go with? Is he going to go with Cullen or Sheehan? And when it was Cullen, I was slightly surprised because I thought, well, we're a goal up here and he's bringing in the more attacking-minded of those sort of two central midfield options. The guy who doesn't play central midfield for his club, who plays as an attacker, and maybe the guy who actually plays as a midfielder, who's sort of more. It's a more natural position for him. Would have been the better option, but at the same time, I'm not going to sort of dig Bellamy out for that one too much because I thought Cullen was brilliant against North Macedonia in that position, and I think his international career so far has been really good. He hasn't played badly for Wales until that Bosnia game. Like, one of the first things he did was just smash a simple pass, like 15, 20-yard pass out of touch for a throw-in. And I just like thought, oh God, is he up to this mentally? Is he up to this kind of this where we're at in this game and kind of the pressure and he wasn't. It's just like clearly it got to him, and the corner just an awful piece of play. But I don't want to dig anyone out for that because it was understandable, I think, for Bellamy to make that substitution because Cullen has done well for him in the past in that position. The next one's the one that I've got a real problem with. Brooks had to come off because Brooks can't play 90 minutes. He doesn't play 90 minutes for Bournemouth ever. But Harris for Brooks, it was just a weird one. I felt Brooks was really good, and you're taking off like a really classy Premier League player, and you're bringing on a guy who's never played above Championship level, who's completely out of form, not starting many games for a team who are going to get relegated, and like 1-0 up in the game as well. Did we even have to bring on a striker as such at that point? I mean, I thought Sorba Thomas, who did come on for Dan James on 84 minutes, played really well in extra time, but why couldn't he have come on for Brooks and played left and brought Brendan Johnson right at that point at 74 minutes? Why Harris? I don't understand Bellamy's thinking there.
The only thing I can think of is that you wanted a bit more of a traditional centre forward who maybe hold the ball up a little bit more, just provide a little bit more presence in and around the box for the remainder of the game, and maybe almost use it as a pivot to play off a little bit and to see if we can maybe snatch a second. It's the only thing I can possibly think of. And then he had two chances where he didn't even have the chances. There was good approach play, and there was the one where there's the save and he's holding his hands as the ball kind of squirts free. And then there was the one where he didn't gamble at the back post for a cross, and I forget who it's from now. And it's like, but that instinct is clearly lacking in the stats. Just they don't lie. His goal scoring stats don't lie. He doesn't have that killer instinct. I'm not sure we had any other striking options to perform that role. And I know you would probably say Nathan Broadhead. The fact that Broadhead didn't play much in the second game either suggests there's something that Bellamy doesn't see in him, I think, because he's not getting a huge amount of minutes under Bellamy. Whether he could have done it in the context of that game and just have whatever it was, whatever minute Harris came on and put Broadhead on, maybe, perhaps. But it kind of goes to show how much I think actually we missed more.
Yeah, yes, clearly Kiefer would have.
I think Kiefer was the big. I mean, Ben Davies, for the leadership and the poise and just the temperament that he brings for sure. But I think Kiefer was the biggest miss of some of the other absentees. Obviously we were Mepham as well. There's no need for Mark Harris if you've got Kiefer Moore. He missed a run against Wrexham, so whether he'd have had 90 in the tank, let alone 120.
No, he wouldn't have started. He wouldn't have started anyway.
But even the minutes you'd have got out of him, he'd have been more effective than Harris.
No, well, I mean, just to say, I watched a game with my friend Dave, who's an English Coventry fan, in fact. So we were both impressed with Jay Da Silva, and he just said, "Oh, who's this guy playing up front for you?" Because he just doesn't. He looks like a really poor player. He just wasn't. The ball, we were getting the ball sort of out wide in a bit of space, and our kind of wingers were looking at And he just kept saying he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything in the box. He's not making a run and then check in to make half a yard of space. He's not trying to dart in front of the defender at the near post. It just seemed very static and a player without very much confidence. And that's just coming from a sort of neutral. And it was just kind of quite painful to watch, really, considering especially that I thought Sorba did well out on the left. He just didn't have a target to aim for in the middle. It's like if Kiefer Moore had been in there, you just feel like we would have scored a second goal. And it was just such a shame that, I mean, some really big players for us were out. Shit timing, because I'm not aware that Bosnia had anyone missing, and we had big players missing. It's just the way it goes. But I mean, if you want to look at the broader picture of things, considering everything, the last 3 tournaments, we've got the playoffs each time. Last World Cup, Ukraine, we won the game, but we were second best. They were the better team, but we sneaked it, with a deflected goal. The next time out, I thought we were the better team, better than Poland. I thought over the course of 120 minutes we were better than Bosnia, but we'd lost in a penalty shootout both times. So it's like, we sneaked it once against Ukraine. We've lost in penalty shootouts against Poland and Bosnia, and these are the teams who have ended up qualifying. And it's kind of like, it sort of feels like, in a sense, where we should be at as a football nation, because we're not, ever going to be in a position where we qualify automatically every time. There's not that many countries that are in that position. I mean, if you look at Italy missing out on 3 World Cups in a row, that's just insane. If you'd said that to me, 30 years ago or something, I just would not believed you. Yeah, absolutely incredible. So, but like to be there or thereabouts, to be in playoffs and get close, it sort of feels a little bit like where we're at the moment is a bit like the Republic of Ireland in the late 90s, early 2000s, before they qualified for the 2002 World Cup with the whole Roy Keane thing. Because, they seem to get to the playoffs every time, but just miss out between 94 and 2002. And it kind of feels like we're in that sort of lull at the moment. And I guess the good news is that it's easier to qualify for the next one because of the way it's set up for in terms of the places that are reserved for the home nations and everything. And it's the Euros anyway, with more teams from UEFA. So it's easier to qualify for the Euros these days than for a World Cup. So, I mean, there's that to look forward to.
So we've got to go there. What about Bellamy's position? I mean, I'm not aware that there was any real kind of threat to it, certainly from above. He may well get linked with jobs, there or thereabouts come the summer. Celtic may have a vacancy, for example, and he's obviously got links there. Does the manner then in which we lost in that game call into question his role? Does it call into question his approach, game management in terms of subs? Maybe there's a criticism there that's valid, but does it call anything else into question at a bit more of a longer term?
Well, in the short term, I think it calls into question Noel Mooney going on podcasts talking about how he's a genius coach who's destined to manage the biggest clubs in the world. Because I'm sorry, but if you miss out on a World Cup in a game at home against Bosnia and the decisive goal is scored by a 40-year-old second division player, you are not going to get the Real Madrid gig. That is not going to happen. So I know Noel loves the sound of his own voice, but it really just shut the fuck up about that sort of stuff and just stop going on about how Bellamy's going to be this, he's going to be that. Let him get on with a job. And now he's got something to prove, I think, because if we don't qualify for this Euros that's coming up, where we'd be at home playing at the Millennium Stadium, then Bellamy's stock is rock bottom. He might get a Newport County job or something, but like he's not going to be managing Bayern Munich. So he's got something to prove now, I think, Bellamy. No, it'd be interesting to see how he reacts, because I don't think this is the point where you jump ship. I don't think he would either. I think he seems genuine when he says he wants to manage Wales at home in the next European Championship. I believe him, and I'm sure he'll be determined to do that. But yeah, I think he's made some mistakes along the way. I think we could have, if we'd seen out the Belgium game for a 3-3 draw in Brussels, puts a different perspective on the group at that point, and we might have actually gone on to win that group. It's all ifs, buts and maybes, obviously, but yeah, that was one point which is a bit of a black mark against Bellamy's name in the context of the group, and then to lose draw a game at home to Bosnia where we were fairly in control for the first 65-70 minutes of it is another black mark against him. So he's, like I said, he's got something to prove.
And if you look at it from out this season, because you touched on the Belgium away game, that was at the end of last season. We grind out a result in Kazakhstan, 1-0. Okay, not a great performance. But again, one of those results, like I said, about the women's in Albania, sometimes you just got to win ugly, get over there, get the points, get back, fine. Lost home to Canada, okay, fine. Bit of a scratch team, not a scratch team, that's unfair, but made some changes. It's low-key friendly, okay, these things happen. Barely turned up against England, that was embarrassment. Then lose to Belgium. Really gruesome performance out in Liechtenstein. Again, we nick it. All clicks against North Macedonia, that full kind of 90-minute performance. Yeah, great. And now we've got this game, 2 games, arguably, against Northern Ireland. Over the course of the season, I'm not so sure these results and performances are kind of stacking up to back up. Certainly what you've just said, the Noel's been saying, I've not heard him, but yeah, you've mentioned it on our WhatsApp and things from time to time. And there's an element of wanting to self-massage the ego on his part, I think, to talk up the appointment, to talk up maybe where results were at that point and where they were going and likelihood of qualifying, etc. Because there's no two ways about it. This makes a big dent in the FAW coffers as well.
Yeah. I was just going to question Noel massaging his own ego. Really? Yeah. He doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there will probably, I would imagine, have to be changes now back at the ranch in terms of the income that would have been never budgeted for, but it's there, and you know what it's likely to be as a bottom line, just being there for 3 games, etc., etc. So that will have a bearing. You're right about the European Championships, the next ones, and there is a certain attractiveness to them if you're a player of Bellamy's era as well. Played in England, played for Team GB, lest we forget, home tournament, all that kind of thing. I can see there's a degree of sort of cachet for him personally about that. And I'm fully expecting him to be around in the summer. I'm fully expecting him to be around for the start of the Nations League in September. We're back in Tier A. Was it Norway, Denmark and Portugal? So there's some good opposition, strong opposition. He'll want to prove himself against some of those countries. I can see there being no change, but we could go through the end of this season, get to the end of the season. You've got Ghana, which I think is a fantastic fixture, just from the historical perspective. We've hardly ever played African opposition. I think it's just the once, isn't it, Tunisia? We don't talk about that result and performance, although the kit was nice. You then got Romania, who'll be kind of licking their wounds as well, because they lost in the playoffs too. I think it was Turkey, I want to say. So, it's back to us being kind of like pre-tournament fodder, which is not something we're unaccustomed to. Less of late than it had been when we were younger. Yeah, like I say, you have to lick your wounds. You just have to take that on the chin. You're playing in those games because you didn't qualify. We didn't see the job through. I fully expect them to be around for those games, but suddenly, if we don't get anything out of those games, I think over the course of a season, it's not great. It's not great. When I say get anything out of them, they're friendly games, and what is there to get out of them? Okay, Dylan Lawler puts in another great performance. Maybe Joel Colwell gets a few minutes. Maybe Brendan Johnson scores a goal or whatever. Okay, fine. But you don't go into those games not to lose. You may want to try some things, blood a couple of players. Maybe there's 1 or 2 advancing their claims from the 21s. We're crying out for a centre forward and a sniffer in the box. So I don't know, does Biancheri get a game because he scored a really good goal the other day for the 21. So, maybe there's definitely things that we can go into those games and learn and do, and they will have their uses. But I don't think it's a record that's really stacking up to scrutiny, cold, honest scrutiny, in the way that perhaps because of his Bellamy's, I don't know what's the word, the kind of the quotableness of his, or the quotability, there's the word, I found it in the end, the quotability of his press conferences, and his just kind of his attitude in those, and the way he comes across in those, and how much the media kind of enjoyed those press conferences. The cold hard analysis of his reign this season, there were some decent results at the end of last season, fine. I'm not sure it's necessarily holding up yet. And to a certain extent, I think he probably recognises that himself. He is brutally, searingly honest with himself and others. So my gut feeling is he's looking at this, and he sounded like he was hurt as well. So yeah, but I mean, before the game in his press conference, he was talking about how if we lose, he'll be able to sleep. I'll be able to sleep. That's what he was saying. Yeah. I wonder if he did.
I had quite a bad night's sleep myself, because I felt it was just what an opportunity there. I mean, also, I think we'd have beaten Italy at home. I have no way of knowing that for sure as well, but Bosnia did the job, and it's not a great Italy team at all. And just what, and it's 4 years till the next one comes along. So you just, it's the thing with World Cups. It's not like Champions League. It comes every season or something. So it just felt like, it was there for us and we missed it. And it's really difficult to qualify for a World Cup from Europe, in this day and age, with the strength of European football across the board. So when you get these opportunities, you really should take them. So that's what felt really disappointing for me. And and it's just whether the question of whether he got it right, really, with the substitutions as well. I was playing that over in my mind. So was Bellamy? Surely you'd think he would be. He's that sort of analytical that those choices that he made would be going through his head. I don't know. I doubt he had a particularly good night's sleep after that Bosnia game, to be totally honest with you. Maybe he did. Maybe he slept like a baby.
Yeah. You mentioned it'll be 4 years to the next World Cup. Harry Wilson will be 33. Dan James will be 32. Brooks will be 32. Yeah. So I'm not saying this is necessarily the last opportunity for them, but there's not many. Carl Darlow probably won't be around. Joe Rodon will be 32. So yeah, it's Ethan Ampadu will be 29. It's definitely one that we've missed out on. Definitely. It feels a bit like the one that Ireland beat us in under Coleman towards the end of Coleman's reign. When do you know what? Looking doing this book at the moment about the Wales managers, and that was one we really, really should have qualified for, because we were top seeds then, and when are we going to be top seeds again, ever? Because we'd done so well at the Euros and in those preceding years, and then we finished third in a group where we were top seeds behind Serbia and Ireland, even though we only lost one game that whole campaign. It was just threw away winning positions to draw way too many games. And I know it's hard, because it happens that teams kind of reach this they climb their Everest, and then they have this kind of thing where they relax a bit. And we were sort of we caught that with Bosnia after 2014. Actually, it was good for us in that they'd been at a World Cup, their first ever tournament in 2014, and then they started really slowly. That group, they drew against us and lost to Cyprus, if I remember correctly. But we had that 2 years later. We had that kind of thing of we've climbed our Everest and now we can relax and look at what we did. And by the time we really started playing in that group, it was too late. And that was such a missed opportunity, because if you can keep that seeding high, you can stay top seeds. It makes such a difference, because you're not going to get a Belgium, next time, or a France or a Spain or whatever. That was a bad one, actually, to have finished third in 2018 World Cup qualifying group. Couldn't agree more. Anything to say about the Northern Ireland game afterwards? I thought, the pressure was off, and it was like, well, you may as well turn up. They didn't have many fans. All credit to the IFA as well for offering refunds to their fans for that game. I thought that was quite a noble act on their part. Yeah, I thought it was a stronger team than I was expecting. There were players I wasn't expecting to see because I just thought, well, for no other reason that they put in a big shift a couple of days before. But it was a sort of stronger team. Colwell got a game. Lawler came on, then went off. I think that was more precautionary than anything. I thought Joel did okay. Not a huge amount to say about it, but pleased for Sorba for his goal because I thought he did well the day, the game before, and does seem to be, I think, one of the bright spots. Game in, game out for Bellamy, whether he starts, whether he comes on, how he's managed to unlock or found the cheat code with him. He couldn't even get into squads under Page towards the end of Page's reign. I mean, it wasn't like he was in the squad and not getting picked or not getting game time. He wasn't even making it into squad. So, credit to Bellamy on that one. Bit of a damp squib, I suppose. But like I said, just on the basis of the game, I thought it was entertaining enough. They both thought, well, now that we're here, both teams, we may as well have a go. And there's a good sort of club. I get a sense there's like a club team mentality about the Northern Ireland team. Has been maybe for a while, actually. Don't have huge numbers to call on in terms of like the talent pool, play for each other. So I thought actually that was, given the circumstances, maybe not a bad test for some of the younger players. But like I said, it ended up being a bit more a stronger, I said not stronger 11, but I mean over the course of the game, seeing players that I wasn't necessarily expecting to see. Did you get to see it over there?
Watching it, I could have done, but I just I was just like still sort of too annoyed after the Bosnia match to watch. I just went back and watched the goal from Sorba Thomas. Yeah, pleased for him. It's 2 goals now in 25 caps, and he's having a really good season for Stoke. I think it's 10 goals and 10 assists, and I think he's pretty sure Hughes said he's the only player at championship level to be in double figures for goals and assists for it. And that's for
I think it's his best ever goal scoring season as well. I think I read somewhere as well. Yeah. So,
and that's for a mid-table team as well. It's not like for a team who are fighting at the top. So those stats reflect really well on him. And I noticed there was paper talk about Everton being interested in him. I don't know if there's any truth in that, but I think he looks capable of playing in the Premier League. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not sure, but then in the same way that I wasn't entirely convinced when he first broke into the Wales team by him, and he's established himself. So I think he's a player that has faced challenge. And don't forget, it wasn't that long ago he was playing, non-league altogether. So I think he's a little bit of a late developer, but I also think that when he's been given a test and a challenge, he's met it, and then he's established himself. So who's to say that he wouldn't do the same if he was asked to step up to the Premier League? Everton maybe feels about right where they are. I mean, I don't know I think there's a thing with him, isn't it? It's like, where would he be deployed? Is it on the left? Is it on the right? Is it a wing back? Is it a winger? He was full back, I think, against Wrexham the other day.
What do you really?
So I think, so I think it's interesting because it's kind of like, fine, go to the Premier League, but where are you going to play? But he's got the energy. It's not just the energy as well. It's like that positivity he just seems to bring to his play. Playing with a smile on his face, just kind of like, you'll try to beat a man. If he doesn't come off, he'll give it another go. He doesn't sort of then just, play it inside. He'll keep going. And I love that positivity about him and that kind of relentlessness to his game. Just really kind of brings energy to things, which again comes back to the Bosnia game. All the more reason why we didn't see him sooner, as you say. Yeah. And I thought, I thought if we were going to do anything in extra time, it was going to probably come through him in some way or the other, the way he was playing. But Bellamy's definitely kind of got in his head and has developed a game plan that really does bring the best out of him. And I think it would probably be in large part, that's unfair maybe to what's going on at Stoke, but I think the fact that how he's been playing for Wales would be a factor in any move to the EPL. I can't imagine that a manager's looking at Sorba Thomas and going, it's all based on what he's doing at Stoke. I think it would be looking at some of his international performances. Credit to Bellamy there.
Yeah, particularly I think that away game in Belgium, he was superb. And that sort of, if you can do it away to Belgium and goal and assist and really cause them problems, then that would sort of, suggest that against quality opposition, he's capable. But I know we've seen it a few times with players who've impressed for Wales, and they're just not, still never really sort of been given much of a chance in the Premier League. So the two things don't always sort of seem to connect in the way that they used to in this day and age. Talking of which, Leicester are going to get relegated, and Jordan James is on loan there, and I wonder where he'll end up next season.
upper championship at least, I think.
Upper, yeah, definitely.
At least.
Yeah.
It's good to see if he could maybe snatch a. He's a sort of player. Would he? Would Coventry? Would a move to Coventry be good for all parties? It's that sort of team. I think that's really, really interesting to see. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some transfer interest in our players. The one I remember talking about not so long ago with regards to Brennan Johnson, I sort of said about how the merry-go-round with managers in EPL such as it is. What's the chances that Thomas Frank finds himself being manager of Brennan Johnson again? And I did see it on the weekend.
All right.
Because Glasner's out, and you just think, oh, crikey, here we go. It'll be an interesting window. Obviously, we have Ghana before then, and Romania, as I say. Have we played Romania before? There's nothing much has ever happened in those games, is there? So I'm sure we'll come back to that one. Maybe looking forward to maybe one of your retrospectives on that fixture. Yeah. But anything else to say by way of sort of news roundup or the last window? I'm conscious it's Sunday night and it's probably bath night for both of us.
Yeah. It's not quite my annual bath time quite yet. It comes in June, that one.
And for both of us, it's no longer wash your hair night either. So, those days are long gone.
Along with our hair, the hair washing. Yeah. I can't think of anything else to say right now. I'm getting told it's time to go to bed. I'm getting a nod.
You're getting a nod from the side of the stage.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure to catch up. Like I said, shame it's not under happier circumstances, but I don't know who wanted to be detained by ice anyway.
Exactly. I mean, am I going to bother watching the World Cup? I don't know if I even am. I wish we qualified, but at the same time, I don't know. This World Cup is just. I feel like the last Euro still was the one that we really should have been at in Germany.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. It feels it's going to be a toxic World Cup, and it's going to be overshadowed by stuff off the field, which I think is always a shame. And of course, because it's such a big tournament this time as well, and a longer one, there's the scope for it just to overshadow it even more than it might otherwise have done if it was more of a quote-unquote traditional format. Yeah. Maybe the Canadian and the Mexican bits of it will offset it. I don't know, but to be fair, not for the want of any number of American citizens wanting it to not be the way we fear it might as well. So maybe things will get a little bit better between now and then. But anyway, listen, I'll let you go. I'm going to go and run my bath.
It's always coming if you run out of your uses. People always want you to be happy and contented. People really must be the most useless things invented. Be careful with your happy thoughts, 'cause you know